The other paradigm, freedom. Plato and Aristotle dominated Greek thought. Plato taught that the world was ruled by ideas, what he called the logos, from which we get the suffix logi, as in biology, sociology, psychology, archaeology, etc. Aristotle, on the other hand, taught that the world consisted of substance and accidents. Think of substance as the noun and the accidents as the adjective. Thus, substance is real and the accidents is merely an aspect of the substance. Aristotle said that any event had four causes: formal, final, material, and efficient. The material cause is the substance, what we call mass. The efficient cause creates movement, what we call force. The formal cause is the shape or form. The form of an object was an accident, merely an aspect of the material reality. The final cause is the purpose that causes the change of form. Aristotle was a biologist, so he used the example of the acorn, whose purpose is the oak tree. In the Middle Ages, Aristotelian nominalism argued that words that did not refer to a material substance were not real. They were nominal, just words. Thus, a marriage as the exchange of vows was not real. It was just words. What made it real was the wedding ring. Similarly, if you look at my coffee cup, the cup form is merely an accident, an aspect of the porcelain. Clearly, the potter can make the clay into any shape at all. The material remains constant and thus real in a world of change. Platonic realists argued that ideas or forms are real. The motto of Plato's Academy was, "Let no one ignorant of geometry enter." Circles, squares, and triangles are real. In the cup example, the cup form could be made of any material, clay or silver or gold or paper or foam. It would still be a cup. Materials are only the media for the idea of a cup. It is the idea that is constant and therefore real. It is the form that controls the material. Nominalism was adopted in the Middle Ages for theological reasons. It is the rationale behind the Roman Catholic doctrine of transubstantiation, that in the Eucharistic prayer the bread and wine are transformed into the body and blood of Christ. Since it still tastes like bread and wine, how is this possible? The answer is that the taste of the bread and wine is merely an accident, a property of the substance, and not something real. The real thing is the substance, which you cannot taste. It is this substance that has been changed into the body and blood of Christ. With the theories of motion developed by Sir Isaac Newton, materialism became the dominant scientific philosophy. All reality could be understood in terms of mechanics. Everything stays the same, inertia, until it is forced to change. All change is the result of external forces. Matter, measured in kilograms, is a constant. Given the third law of motion, energy is also a constant. Matter and energy are constant and therefore real. Therefore, these quantities could be described mathematically and future motion precisely predicted. The determinism of scientific materialism arose. The mechanistic reductionists also banned the idea of a final cause, and with it the idea of moral decisions. The idea that something has a purpose or final cause was considered a heresy, called the intentional fallacy, and branded one as unscientific. The quantitative method, since mathematical equations could only be considered real if they described material objects, thus was developed the quantitative method, where the whole is the sum of the parts. Darwinian selection. The evolutionary record is constant change. An ecosystem that began with anaerobic bacteria has developed into the complexity of the modern ecosystem. Darwin saw a process of selection or choice. When human beings breed domestic animals, they choose certain traits to breed for. Darwin argued that the evolutionary process was also a process of choice or selection. Only the breeder was not the human being, but Mother Nature, thus natural selection. Nature, argued Darwin, judges according to the trait of survival. Plants and animals that survived would breed, and animals that did not survive would not breed. But the essential insight of Darwin is that change of form is selection or choice. That was a radical new idea. A law is a decision. A law is an idea that controls behavior. A law is a decision. The government of Manitoba makes a decision. Red lights mean stop. The car driver, knowing the law and seeing the red light, makes a decision and stops. To predict the behavior of the car, you don't need to understand the government decision or the driver's decision. You just need to know the law. You can exclude the decision makers from the description and still make accurate predictions. This seems trivial when applied to stoplights, but it becomes significant when talking about gravity. If you look at a falling apple and you know the law of gravity, you can predict the behavior of the apple. You don't need to know how the decision on gravity was made. That would get you into a theological discussion. You don't need to understand apple psychology, which has always been a mystery. All you need to know is the law. Telecommunications. The Darwinian idea of creative decision-making or selection took on new meaning and significance with the rise of telecommunications. Are ideas objectively real? The telegraph transmits messages. Messages are real. Messages are ideas. If ideas can be communicated, then ideas are objectively real. The telecommunications people coined a new word, information, and they came up with a definition for it. Information is a message selected from a set of possible messages. Since information is a selection, then information is a choice, a decision. They also presented a solution to the mind-body problem. If both matter and ideas are real, then how do they relate? Matter and energy are the media of information and communication. They carry messages. This is, of course, simply a different way to state the Platonic position that matter simply acts as the expression of an idea. Plato was rediscovered. Gregory Bateson later defined information as a difference that makes a difference. The reason it makes a difference is because it is chosen. The Bateson definition brings us back to the basic theory of perception as choice. A choice always presupposes difference or alternatives. A presupposition of the objective observer is that we perceive objects, things. Thus, objective reality is a world of objects. What the Gestalt psychologists showed is that what we perceive is difference. If I want to make an actor disappear on stage, I put him in a black costume against a black curtain. If there is no difference, then there is no perception. But a difference is not an object. It is neither matter nor energy. The perception of an object is a decision. When we sense the difference, we decide which aspect of the thing is the thing and which aspect is the background. This creates meaning within context, or Gestalt. Computers. A computer is made up of an immense number of transistors which function as gates, either open or closed, a binary choice which can be coded as a series of ones and zeros, binary digits or bits. Computers store information as choice. Computers process information using logic based on the binary distinction X or not X. Thus, logical processes called programs are also information and can be stored in the same memory as the data, as a string of ones and zeros. The Internet transmits information between computers as a string of ones and zeros. Cybernetics. Then along came cybernetics, the study of communication and control. Control systems are decision-making systems. Engineers were making machines, material objects that were making decisions. The governor controlled the speed of the steam engine. The thermostat controlled the room temperature. Decision-making was not limited to human beings. Cybernetic systems exhibited intention, teleology, and purpose. It was a refutation of the intentional fallacy. But control systems are not mechanistic systems. They are information systems. The mechanisms are the media of information, in other words, ideas. It turns out that things are not controlled by forces, but by ideas. Ideas control matter and energy. Plato was rediscovered again. Control. Control systems seek to control specific aspects of their environment. The power to control is the ability to make a decision. But all decisions are limited. Decisions are limited by history. Any decision takes place in the context of previous decisions. Decisions are limited by the four aspects of the control process: the environment, the models, the values, and the abilities of the system. Freedom. Living things are free in the simple sense that they seek to control their environment. Living things are also self-controlled in that they can change their program. They can learn. Although perceptions are limited by the environment, perceptions are a choice, and a specific worldview can change. We can change our worldview from materialism to process dualism. Although the environment limits our options, we can expand our options. We can learn new skills. Finally, every decision is an exercise in values clarification. Free will is the ability to choose our values, goals, and purposes. These may be influenced by our culture, but they are not ultimately defined by them. A unified reality. In 1956, Francis Crick and George Gamow enunciated what they called the central dogma of microbiology, that there are two processes inside a cell: energy processes and information processes, and the important one is the information process. Thus, DNA is a molecule with a valence, thus matter and energy. But it is also the genome, coded genetic information that controls the development of the organism. Materialism is like the man who rips out one eye and insists that the world is flat because that's all he can see. A binocular vision means using both the eye that sees matter and energy and the eye that sees information and communication. This is best understood as a figure-ground gestalt. When we look at information, we see it against a background of matter and energy. And when we look at matter, we see it against the background of form or information. We are free to see one or the other, and thus both.